So something that not everyone is talking about in Counter-Strike 2's most recent update, the Armory update, is the major changes made to player character animation. So like how players' movement looks when you're playing a comp match or something. In my personal update video, I know I basically only covered all of the new skins and cosmetics. Definitely something the game needed, but because I skipped past this stuff, and for those of you who want to see some actual improvements to the game that aren't new skins, let me show you guys now what's changed exactly. First things first, I want to come back to the CS2 update notes, and specifically for the Armory update, this one right here, I want to come down to where we see all the animation improvements here. And I'm going to quickly read through these because there's honestly a lot of major things included in this. First off, there's improved character positioning when on large slopes. They made feet pin and unpin differently for all use cases to help remove aggressively leaned characters. So this is basically for the Michael Jackson lean and like those type of stuff. Pin/unpin IK logic now not affected by poor server ping times. Feet IK now responds to idle pose if the feet have pinned at a largely different pose to the authored. Reauthored run, walk, and crouch content to fix wide/scissor leg positioning when traversing. Changed ladder animations and behaviors so characters' heads are much more representative of where the player camera is, including characters now display crouch correctly when on ladders. They removed popping when crouching or uncrouching while jumped and reduced leaning on jump animation. Fixed characters pose popping when falling off a ledge, and lastly a fix for many cases where characters' positioning would subtly pop when traversing with slow moving weapons. Now these are all the changes specifically just listed here by Valve, but then what exactly do the differences look like in game? Luckily for us, Jackie, this guy here on Twitter who's a host and commentator for Counter-Strike, posted video examples of each and every one of these changes so you can see exactly what it looks like before and after the update. Honestly, he just made making this video really easy, so huge shout out to him. But before I go through them all, I do need to pay for food and rent real quick, so let me give a shout out to today's video sponsor, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is hands down one of the best bot trading sites you can use with Counter-Strike skins. Say you want to upgrade some of your current skins to get something better, this would be the perfect site to do that with. You can also straight up buy skins too, and with their 35% deposit bonus plus my code, it gives anyone quite a nice balance to work with. There's even free giveaways you can enter and rewards for completing simple tasks on the site. Get started with a free $5 using my link in the description below. Alright, with that all said and done and out of the way, getting into the first example we have here is a player just simply moving left and right. And the main thing to notice here is how much more crisp the movements are after this update, specifically when the player is stopping and then moving in a new direction. It doesn't glide like it did before. It's a lot more crisp and you can see exactly kind of what's going to happen. Overall, you can definitely see the clarity added within these new updates. Definitely makes it look a lot more complete too. But moving on to the next example, here you can see the visual changes to jumping and crouch jumping. So you can see that first jump is just the normal jumping and landing, but then the second jump is crouching while you're mid jump. And you can see it's a lot more distinct now. Basically before you wouldn't be able to tell the difference of if you were crouch jumping or not crouch jumping. Overall, just making everything look a lot less janky. Next up, this is an example of what the improved character positioning on slopes looks like. So in the before, you can kind of see how the player model glides down with his feet in the hill here on Dust 2. But then in the update, not only has that been fixed, but the character model isn't leaning forward as much when moving down. It definitely makes everything feel super smooth now, but it also helps the characters look like their movement's a lot more normal. Now what about ladders though? Because they also mentioned updates to players' movement on ladders. In this example, you can see how in the after they completely redid how the bone structure reacts with the ladder, I guess is how you would say it, and the model moves much more smoothly up the ladder. It doesn't wiggle side to side as much. That's definitely the biggest thing I'm noticing here. The foot placement definitely looks like it's been improved a little bit. It's a little bit more accurate, but I feel like when you slow this down, it's still kind of dragging through the like individual pulls on the ladder, if that makes sense. I don't know if they'd ever be able to get it perfect, but anyways, moving on to the next one, here's the visual difference of what falling off a ledge looks like. I'll be honest, this is one I don't see the biggest difference on, but Jackie's saying they tweaked the pose when falling off a ledge, which I guess you can kind of see a little bit. Slowed down too, I think the impact of when the player hits the ground and kind of like stands back up is a little bit more accurate too. I don't know. Now this next example looks very similar to that first one we already looked at, but this is actually an example of the tweaked character positions when moving with slow moving weapons, so like in a Gev for example. Also, just like that first example, I would say the motions are much more crisp here. You can much more clearly make out when the player is stopping and then starting in a different direction. It definitely feels way more accurate when you're looking at it, because before you're just sliding around for the most part. Oh, and going back to the ladders real quick, there's also a new animation for when you're crouching while on a ladder, and this difference is actually pretty substantial. Before, you can see how the player moves only a little bit, it's like he's doing a little stomach crunch, versus the new animation, you'll actually look like you're crouching on the ladder, like you're actually in a crouch position. He also adds in an image of what it looks like from first person view, and to be honest, watching this, I can't tell if there's a difference because he's positioned himself in two different spots, but it seems like it's accurate, so I'll take it. Lastly, the last comparison we get here is also just like the first comparison, but specifically to highlight how good these new animations really shine when strafing and moving really fast. So you can see here in the after part, he's spamming A and D, and you can see the feet are reacting something very crisp to that. But before, you're just, you know, sliding around like normal, basically like all of these before shots. Visually, when it comes to fighting a player one-on-one or whatever, where your opponent in front of you is strafing constantly, it's gonna be much easier to tell what they're doing in this. It's gonna be much easier to tell what exactly they're doing with the more crisp animations. Anyways, that wraps up all of Jackie's comparisons. Overall, simple animation changes, but definitely very needed. And I do think this clarity that's been added to these movements is really gonna help within comp, especially for the pros who rely on being able to see what exactly a player is doing to, you know, predict what's gonna happen next. Anyways, if you did make it this far, definitely make sure you guys drop a like and of course subscribe if you're new. And yeah, now whatever video is showing on your screen, the YouTube algorithm thinks you might like, so do me a favor and go check it out.